I never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am, hoping that by sharing my story, I might make some sense of it all. My wife Emma and I met in college. We were both 22, young and full of dreams. Emma was studying business, and I was majoring in engineering. We clicked almost immediately and started dating soon after we met. By the time we graduated, we were inseparable. Our wedding was a beautiful spring day. I still remember the way Emma looked in her dress, like a vision of everything good in the world. We were both 25, ready to take on life together. We settled into a comfortable routine, supporting each other as careers. Emma eventually took over her father's small business, while I joined a big engineering firm. Life was good. We were happy. We bought a cozy house in a nice neighborhood and were soon blessed with 2 daughters, Sarah and Lily. Emma's business thrived, and I got promoted several times. Our careers took off, but it did mean we were both very busy. When our daughters were born, we decided one of us should stay home to raise them. Emma's business was doing exceptionally well, so we agreed I would be the stay-at-home dad. It was a tough decision, but we made it work. For years, we were a happy family. I managed the house and took care of the girls while Emma worked hard to grow her business. It wasn't always easy, but we were a team. We supported each other through thick and thin, or so I thought. Things began to change about a year ago. Emma started coming home later and seemed more distant. She often criticized me for not having a real job, which stung, given that we had agreed on our roles years ago. I brushed it off, thinking it was just stress from her work. But then, there were more red flags. We hired a gardener, Jake, to help maintain our lawn. He was a young, friendly guy, always polite and hardworking. I didn't think much of it when Emma would chat with him occasionally. But over time, their conversations grew longer, and Emma seemed unusually cheerful after talking to him. I began to notice little things: a touch on the arm, a shared laugh, and the way she would look at him. One day, I came home earlier than usual and found them talking in the garden. Emma was laughing, her hand resting on Jake's shoulder. They didn't see me, and I didn't interrupt, but something inside me shifted. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Emma was unusually attentive, almost as if she was trying to make up for something. I decided to keep an eye on things, hoping I was just being paranoid. But the more I watched, the clearer it became that Emma was far too friendly with Jake. And that when the doubts began to creep in, doubts that would eventually lead to a discovery that shattered our family. After that initial moment of suspicion, I couldn't stop myself from looking for more signs. At first I felt guilty. Emma was my wife and I wanted to trust her, but her behavior kept raising questions I couldn't ignore. Emma started dressing differently. She used to wear comfortable, practical clothes for work and at home, but now she was suddenly interested in buying new outfits. She'd come home with bags from expensive stores, filled with clothes that seemed too fancy for her usual day-to-day activities. When I asked her about it, she brushed me off, saying she just felt like updating her wardrobe. I tried to believe her, but it felt off. She also became more protective of her phone. Emma used to leave it lying around the house, but now she keeps it with her at all times. She'd even take it to the bathroom, which was something she never did before. One night I noticed her texting someone late into the night, her face lit by the glow of the screen, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. When I asked who she was texting, she said it was just work, and quickly put the phone away. The final straw came one Saturday afternoon. I was in the kitchen making lunch for the girls when I heard Emma laughing outside. I looked out the window and saw her with Jake. They were standing too close, and her hand lingered on his arm longer than necessary. My heart sank. I needed to know what was going on. I decided to check her phone when she was in the shower. My hands shook as I unlocked it and scrolled through her messages. Most were harmless, but then I found a string of texts from an unsaved number. The messages were flirty, talking about meetings and expressing excitement to see each other. My stomach churned when I realized the messages were from Jake. I took screenshots and sent them to myself for evidence, then put her phone back where I found it. My mind raced with questions and anger. How could she do this to us, to our family? That evening, Emma seemed unusually cheerful. She hummed a tune as she cooked dinner, a stark contrast to her recent moodiness. I watched her, trying to reconcile the woman I loved with the person who was betraying me. During dinner, I tried to act normal, but inside, I was seething. After putting the girls to bed, I confronted her. I asked her directly about Jake, about the messages. Her face went pale, and for a moment, she looked like a deer caught in the headlights. Then she denied everything, saying I was overreacting and misinterpreting harmless texts. But her voice wavered, and I could see the guilt in her eyes. I didn't push further that night. I needed time to think, to figure out my next steps. I spent the night on the couch, my mind a whirlwind of betrayal, anger, and sadness. I couldn't believe this was happening. Emma, the woman I had loved and trusted for years, was lying to me, and there was no denying it any longer. The cracks in our marriage were growing, and I feared they might soon become irreparable. The next morning, I woke up on the couch with a heavy heart. The house was still quiet, the girls not yet awake. I knew I couldn't let this go. I had to confront Emma and get to the bottom of what was happening. When Emma came downstairs, she was her usual morning self, humming a tune and making coffee. I could feel my anger rising, but I kept my cool. I needed to approach this carefully. After breakfast, I asked her to sit down. She gave me a puzzled look but agreed, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. Emma, we need to talk, I began, trying to keep my voice steady. About what? She asked, feigning innocence. About you and Jake, I said, watching her reaction closely. Her face hardened, and she crossed her arms defensively. Oh, not this again. I told you, there's nothing going on. I saw the messages, Emma, I said quietly, pulling out my phone and showing her the screenshots. This isn't just in my head. She glanced at the screen, then back at me with a smirk. Are you serious, Jack? You are going through my phone now? That's low, even for you. Don't try to turn this around on me, I shot back, my patience wearing thin. Explain those messages. Tell me the truth. Emma rolled her eyes and leaned back in her chair. Fine, you want the truth? Yes, I've been texting Jake, but it is nothing serious. It is just a bit of harmless fun. God, Jack, it is not like I've slept with him. Harmless fun? I echoed, incredulous. Do you think I'm an idiot? You are flirting with him, Emma. And more than that, you are lying to me. Why? Because I'm bored, Jack, she snapped, her eyes flashing with anger. I am bored and frustrated. You are always here, always in my face. You have no ambition, no drive. You just sit around and play house while I bust my ass at work. I needed an escape, and Jake was convenient. I felt a surge of anger. So this is my fault now? I am the one to blame because I stayed home to take care of our daughters, to support your career? Oh, spare me the martyr act, she scoffed. You loved quitting your job. It gave you an excuse to be lazy, dawn to pretend you were some kind of hero. I was stunned by her cruelty. The woman I loved had become someone I barely recognized. You don't even see what you are doing to us, do you? To our family? Emma shrugged, her expression cold. Our family will be fine. The girls will be fine. You are blowing this way out of proportion. Blowing it out of proportion? I repeated, my voice rising. Emma, you're having an emotional affair right under our noses. Do you even care about us anymore? Of course I do, she snapped back. But maybe I need more than just this mundane life we've built. Maybe I need something exciting, something that makes me feel alive. And Jake makes you feel alive? I asked, bitterness seeping into my voice. Maybe he does, she admitted, her tone defiant. But it doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I want to leave you. I shook my head, unable to believe what I was hearing. You can have it both ways, Emma. You can keep lying and expect everything to stay the same. Her eyes narrowed and she leaned forward. Then what do you want, Jack? Do you want a divorce? Is that it? Are you going to throw away everything we've built over a few texts? I stared at her, my mind racing. I don't know what I want right now, but I know this can continue. You need to choose, Emma. Either you end whatever this is with Jake, or we can move forward. She glared at me, her face a mask of anger and resentment. Fine, Jack. I'll stop seeing Jake. But don't think for a second that this is over. You have pushed me to this point, and you better believe I'm not forgetting it. With that, she stood up and stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me sitting there, reeling from the confrontation. The cracks in our marriage had widened into chasms, and I couldn't see a way to bridge them. Emma's betrayal was deeper than I had imagined, and her unwillingness to take responsibility left me feeling hopeless. How could we ever find our way back from this? After Emma stormed out, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the now cold cup of coffee in front of me. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions: anger, hurt, betrayal, and fear. The fear was the worst of all. What would happen to Sarah and Lily if we divorced? How would they handle the upheaval? How would I handle it? The rest of the day passed in a blur. Emma avoided me, staying in the bedroom or going out for long drives. I tried to keep things normal for the girls, but inside, I was falling apart. That evening, after putting the girls to bed, I found myself sitting in the living room, waiting for Emma to come home. When she finally walked through the door, I knew we needed to have a serious conversation. "Emma, we need to talk," I said as she entered the room. She sighed, dropping her purse on the table. "Again? Haven't we talked enough, Jack?" "No, we haven't tea," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. "We need to figure out what is happening here. For the girls' sake, if nothing else." She flopped onto the couch, looking tired and annoyed. "Fine. What do you want to talk about?" I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Emma, I can't keep living like this. The lies, the deceit, it's killing me. And it's not fair to Sarah and Lily. They deserve better than parents who are constantly at each other's throats." She rolled her eyes. "So what do you propose, Jack? Divorce? Is that what you want?" "I don't know what I want," I admitted. "But I know this isn't working. I know we can keep pretending everything is fine when it's not." Emma looked at me, her expression softening slightly. "And what about the girls? What happens to them if we split up?" "That's what I'm most worried about," I said, my voice cracking. "I don't want to hurt them. I don't want them to feel like they are losing their family. So, we just keep pretending for their sake?" she asked, a hint of sarcasm in her voice. "No," I said, shaking my head. "I don't want to pretend anymore. But we need to find a way to make this work, to minimize the damage to them." She sighed, rubbing her temples. "I never wanted it to come to this, Jack. I never wanted to hurt you or the girls." "Then why did you do it?" I asked, my voice rising. "Why did you lie to me? Why did you flirt with Jake knowing how much it would hurt me?" "I don't know," she said quietly. "I was lonely, Jack. I felt trapped. I needed an escape, and Jake was there." "That's not an excuse," I said, feeling my anger rise again. "You could have talked to me. You could have told me how you were feeling. Instead, you chose to lie and betray me." "I know," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "I am sorry, Jack. I really am." "Sorry isn't enough," I said, my voice shaking. "We can keep living like this. It's not fair to any of us." She nodded, wiping away a tear. "So what do we do now?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. "We get a divorce, Emma. It's the only way. We need to end this before it destroys us completely." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resignation. "If that's what you think is best, then fine. We'll get a divorce." For a moment we sat in silence, the reality of our decision sinking in. Our marriage was over, and there was no turning back. The only thing left was to figure out how to move forward, how to protect our daughters from the fallout. "We all need to tell the girls," I said finally. "We need to figure out the best way to do that." Emma nodded, her expression solemn. "We'll tell them together. They need to hear it from both of us. And we need to make sure they know it is not their fault," I added, "that we both love them and will always be there for them." "Agreed," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As I sat there, staring at the woman I had once loved so deeply, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of loss. Our marriage was ending, and with it, the life we had built together. But in that moment, I knew it was the right decision. It was the only way to protect our daughters, to give them a chance at a happy, stable life, even if it meant tearing our own apart. The next few weeks would be some of the hardest of my life, but I knew I had to stay strong for Sarah and Lily. They needed me now more than ever, and I couldn't let them down. No matter what happened, I would always be their father, and I would do whatever it took to keep them safe and happy. The next morning, the weight of our decision to divorce still hung heavy in the air. Emma and I moved through the motions of our routine, but the tension was palpable. After we got the girls off to school, we sat down in the living room to discuss the logistics of our separation. "Emma, we need to talk about custody," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "The girls need stability, and we need to figure out what's best for them." Emma leaned back, crossing her arms. "Well, obviously they all stay with me. I have a stable job and I can provide for them. What can you offer them, Jack? You're just a stay-at-home dad." Her words stung, but I tried to remain calm. "I may not have a job, but I have been the one raising them. I am the one who's always here for them, taking care of their needs." And you think that makes you more fit to be their primary parent? She scoffed. Jack, they need more than just someone to take care of them. They need financial security, and I can provide that. They need their father, I insisted. They need the stability of having someone who's always been there for them. Emma shook her head. You're living in a fantasy world, Jack. The court will side with me. I have a job, I can provide for them, and you are just here, doing nothing. Doing nothing? I repeated, incredulous. Emma, I have sacrificed my career to take care of our family, to support you in your career. That should count for something. It doesn't, she snapped. You think the court will care that you gave up your job? They'll see you as an unemployed man with no means to support his children. I felt my resolve wavering. Emma's arguments were cutting deep, and I couldn't deny that she had a point. Financially, she was in a better position. But the thought of losing my daughters, of not being there for them every day, was unbearable. Emma, we can tear them apart like this, I pleaded. We need to find a way to share custody. They need both of us. Jack, stop being naive, she said coldly. This isn't about what's fair. It's about what's best for them. And right now, that's me. Her words were like daggers, each one twisting deeper into my heart. I wanted to fight for my daughters, but I could feel my confidence slipping. Emma sensed my hesitation and pressed on. Look, Jack, she said, her tone softening slightly. We don't have to make this ugly. We can work something out. Maybe. Maybe we don't need to rush into a divorce. We can try counseling, see if we can fix this for the girl's sake. I looked at her, searching for any sign of sincerity. She was manipulating me, I knew that. But her words tapped into my deepest fears and desires. I wanted to believe that we could fix this, that we could be a family again. Counseling? I echoed, unsure. Yes, she said, leaning forward. We can try to work through this. For the girls, they deserve a chance at having a whole family. My mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I wanted to protect my daughters, to give them the stability they needed. But I also knew that Emma and I were fundamentally broken. Could counseling really fix that? Or was she just buying time, trying to wear me down? Emma, I don't know, I said, my voice wavering. I am not sure we can fix this. Of course we can, she said, her voice firm. We owe it to our daughters to try. Don't you want to at least try, Jack? I looked at her, at the woman I had once loved so deeply. Despite everything, a part of me still wanted to believe in her. I wanted to believe that we could make this work, that we could find a way back to each other. Okay, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. We'll try counseling. But if it doesn't work, we have to do what's best for the girls. Emma nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Of course, Jack. We'll do whatever it takes. As she walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had made a mistake. My gut told me that Emma's sudden willingness to try counseling was just another manipulation, another way to control the situation. But for the sake of my daughters, I had to try. I owed them that much, even if it meant risking everything. We started counseling the following week. Our therapist, Dr. Peterson, was a kind woman with a gentle demeanor. She welcomed us into her office, a cozy room filled with soft chairs and warm lighting, designed to make us feel comfortable and open. Emma and I sat next to each other on a plush couch, a forced closeness that felt alien and uncomfortable. Dr. Peterson began by asking us to share why we were there and what we hoped to achieve. Emma spoke first, her voice steady and confident. We want to save our marriage for the sake of our daughters. They deserve a stable, happy home, and we owe it to them to try and work through our issues. I nodded in agreement, but inside I felt a gnawing emptiness. I wanted to save our marriage too, but the betrayal and lies had carved a deep abyss in my heart. I didn't know if it was possible to bridge that gap. As the sessions progressed, we talked about our feelings, our frustrations, and our hopes for the future. Emma was articulate and persuasive, painting a picture of a misunderstood wife seeking a way back to her family. I struggled to put my thoughts into words, feeling the weight of her infidelity pressing down on me. Dr. Peterson encouraged us to be honest and open, but every time I looked at Emma, all I could see was her betrayal. I couldn't shake the image of her with Jake, the flirty texts, the lies. It was a constant reminder that the woman I loved was not who I thought she was. At home, things were tense but civil. We went through the motions of daily life, trying to present a united front for the girls. But the abyss in my heart grew wider with each passing day. I felt like a stranger in my own home, disconnected from the woman I had once loved so deeply. One evening, after a particularly grueling counseling session, I found myself alone in the living room, staring at the family photos on the wall. Each picture was a testament to the life we had built together, a life that now felt like a lie. Emma walked in and sat beside me, her presence a stark contrast to the warmth and love captured in those images. "Jack, are you okay?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. I sighed, unable to look at her. "I don't know, Emma. I don't know if I can do this." She reached out and took my hand, her touch both familiar and foreign. "We have to try for the girls. They need us." I pulled my hand away, the gesture feeling like a betrayal of my own feelings. "I am trying, but it is hard. Every time I look at you, all I can see is what you did. The lies, the betrayal. It is like a weight that I can lift." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Jack. I know I hurt you, and I regret it every day. But we can get through this. We have to." I stood up, needing to put some distance between us. "I don't know if I can, Emma. I don't know if we can ever get back to what we had." She stood up too, a mixture of determination and desperation in her eyes. "We can, Jack. We just have to keep trying. Please don't give up on us." Her words hung in the air, a plea for a future that seemed more and more like a distant dream. I wanted to believe her, to believe that we could find our way back. But the abyss in my heart was a constant reminder of the pain and betrayal. As the weeks turned into months, the counseling sessions continued. We made some progress, talking about our issues and trying to rebuild trust. But for every step forward, there were moments of doubt and despair. The abyss in my heart remained, a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. One night, after the girls were asleep, I found myself standing on the porch, staring out into the darkness. The weight of everything pressed down on me, and I felt like I was suffocating. Emma joined me, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "Jack, what's going on?" she asked softly. I turned to her, my voice barely a whisper. "I don't know if I can do this anymore, Emma. I feel like I am losing myself. I don't know who I am or what I'm supposed to do." She stepped closer, her eyes searching mine. "You are the man I love, the father of our children. We can get through this. We have to." I shook my head, the abyss in my heart yawning wider. "I don't know if I can find my way back to you, Emma. The pain, the betrayal, it is too much." Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't look away. "Please, Jack, don't give up on us. Don't give up on our family." In that moment, I realized that no matter how much I wanted to believe in our future, the abyss in my heart was too vast. The trust was gone, and without it, there was no foundation to rebuild upon. As I stood there looking into Emma's tear-filled eyes, I knew that the time had come to make a final decision. For the sake of my own sanity and for the well-being of our daughters, I had to face the painful truth. Reconciliation was not possible. The abyss in my heart was too deep, and it was time to let go. Despite my lingering doubts, Emma and I continued to attend counseling sessions and put on a brave face for the girls. The reconciliation efforts became a routine, a series of steps we followed with mechanical precision. We talked, we argued, we tried to find common ground, but the abyss in my heart remained. One evening, after another tense session with Dr. Peterson, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the flickering light of the television without really seeing it. The girls were asleep, and Emma was upstairs, probably in bed. I felt a profound emptiness, a sense of being adrift without a compass. My phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was a message from my old friend Tom, who I hadn't seen in months. "Hey Jack, long time no see. How about grabbing a drink tonight? Catch up and talk about anything but work and family drama." I hesitated, glancing upstairs. Then I made up my mind. I needed a break from the suffocating atmosphere at home. I needed to breathe. "Sure, Tom, sounds good. Meet you at O'Malley's in an hour?" "Perfect. See you there." I went upstairs to find Emma reading in bed. She looked up, a question in her eyes. "Where are you going?" "Out for a drink with Tom," I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral. "I need some air, Emma. I need to clear my head." She nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. "Okay, Jack, just don't be out too late." I grabbed my jacket and keys and left the house, feeling a strange mix of relief and guilt. As I drove to the bar, I wondered if I was making the right decision. But deep down, I knew I needed this. I needed to find myself again, away from the chaos and confusion of my crumbling marriage. O'Malley's was a familiar haunt, a place where Tom and I had shared countless laughs and drinks over the years. When I walked in, I spotted him at a corner table, 2 beers already waiting. "Jack, it's good to see you, man," Tom greeted me with a hearty handshake. "You look like you could use a drink." I laughed, a genuine sound that felt foreign to my ears. "You have no idea." We settled into easy conversation, talking about old times, work, and everything but the turmoil at home. It was a welcome distraction, and for the first time in weeks I felt a semblance of normalcy. As the night wore on, the bar filled with the hum of conversation and laughter. Tom and I were deep in a discussion about a game we used to play when 2 women approached our table. They were both attractive, dressed casually but stylishly. One of them, a brunette with sparkling blue eyes, smiled at us. "Hi there, mind if we join you?" she asked. Tom grinned and gestured to the empty seats. "Not at all." "I am Tom, and this is my friend Jack." "I am Lisa," the brunette said, sitting next to Tom. "And this is my friend Rachel." Rachel, a blonde with a warm smile, took the seat next to me. "Nice to meet you both." We exchanged pleasantries, and the conversation flowed naturally. Lisa and Rachel were easy to talk to, and their presence was a welcome distraction from the heavy thoughts that had been weighing me down. As the evening progressed, I found myself relaxing, enjoying the company and the laughter. Rachel and I discovered we shared a love of hiking and spent a good part of the evening swapping stories about our favorite trails and adventures. At one point, Rachel leaned closer and asked, "So Jack, what brings you out tonight?" I hesitated, not wanting to delve into the complexities of my failing marriage. "Just needed a break," I said simply. "It's been a tough few months." She nodded understandingly. "Sometimes you just need to step away for a bit. Clear your head." "Exactly," I said, grateful for her empathy. As the night wore on, I felt a sense of camaraderie with these new acquaintances. It was a reminder that there was still a world outside the confines of my troubled marriage, a world where I could find joy and connection. Eventually, Tom checked his watch and sighed. "I hate to be the responsible one, but I've got an early meeting tomorrow. Jack, you ready to head out?" I nodded, feeling a sense of reluctance to leave this bubble of normalcy. "Yeah, I suppose we should." We exchanged numbers with Lisa and Rachel, promising to meet up again soon. As Tom and I walked out of the bar, I felt a strange mix of emotions. I was grateful for the evening's respite, but the reality of my situation loomed large. Driving home, I knew what I had to do. The reconciliation efforts were a facade, and the abyss in my heart was too vast to bridge. I needed to end this charade, for my sake and for the girls. It was time to let go and move forward. When I got home, Emma was waiting, her expression tense. "How was your night?" "It was good," I said, meeting her eyes. "Emma, we need to talk. Tomorrow. We need to make some decisions." She looked at me, understanding dawning in her eyes. "All right, Jack. We'll talk." As I lay in bed that night, I felt a sense of resolve. It was time to face the future, whatever it held, and find a way to rebuild my life from the ground up. The next day, I woke up with a sense of determination. My decision to divorce Emma had solidified during my night out with Tom and the 2 women from the bar. But there was something else brewing inside me, a desire for revenge. It was a feeling I hadn't allowed myself to entertain before, but the betrayal and manipulation had taken their toll. I wanted Emma to feel the same pain and uncertainty she had inflicted on me. I messaged Rachel, the blonde I had met at the bar. "Hey Rachel, it was great meeting you last night. Want to grab dinner tonight?" Her response was quick and enthusiastic. "I'd love to, Jack. How about 7 p.m. at Luigi's?" "Perfect. See you then." I spent the day going through the motions at home, keeping busy with chores and errands. Emma and I avoided each other, the tension between us palpable. The girls were at school, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in their parents' relationship. As the evening approached, I dressed carefully, wanting to look my best for Rachel. I told Emma I was going out again, not bothering to offer any explanations. She barely acknowledged me, engrossed in her phone. At Luigi's, Rachel greeted me with a warm smile. She looked stunning, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. We talked and laughed over dinner, the conversation easy and light. For a few hours, I was able to forget the turmoil at home and enjoy the company of someone who seemed genuinely interested in me. After dinner, we decided to take a walk by the river. The night was cool and clear, the city lights reflecting off the water. As we strolled, Rachel took my hand, her touch sending a thrill through me. "Jack, I really enjoyed tonight," she said softly, looking up at me with those warm, inviting eyes. "Me too, Rachel," I replied, my voice low. "I needed this." She stepped closer, her body pressing against mine. "Maybe we can continue this somewhere more private?" I didn't hesitate. I like that. We went back to her apartment, a cozy place with modern decor. As soon as we walked through the door, the atmosphere shifted. The tension between us was electric. Rachel led me to the couch, and we sank into the cushions, our lips meeting in a passionate kiss. The night unfolded in a blur of desire and desperation. We made our way to her bedroom, shedding clothes and inhibitions. I lost myself in the moment, in the feel of her skin, the taste of her lips. For a few hours, I forgot about Emma, about the betrayal, about the impending divorce. There was only Rachel and the raw, primal need to escape the pain. Afterward, we lay tangled in the sheets, the room dimly lit by the city lights outside. Rachel rested her head on my chest, her breathing steady and calm. "Jack, are you okay?" she asked softly. I sighed, the weight of reality crashing back down on me. "I am not sure, but tonight was what I needed." "Stay with me," she murmured, her fingers tracing patterns on my skin. I knew I should go home, but the thought of facing Emma, of pretending for one more night, was unbearable. "All right," I agreed, my voice barely above a whisper. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a mix of satisfaction and guilt. I had taken my revenge, had stepped outside the boundaries of my crumbling marriage. But the abyss in my heart was still there, deeper and darker than ever. Tomorrow, I would have to face the consequences. But for now, I let myself sink into the temporary solace of Rachel's embrace. I didn't go home that night, and when I woke up the next morning in Rachel's bed, I knew there was no turning back. The final pieces of my old life were falling away, and it was time to confront the new reality I had set in motion. I woke up in Rachel's bed, the morning light filtering through the curtains. For a moment, I allowed myself to savor the warmth and comfort of her embrace, but reality quickly set in. I had to go home and face Emma. I needed to tell her the truth about last night. I dressed quietly, not wanting to wake Rachel. As I slipped out of her apartment and headed home, my mind raced with thoughts of how to approach the conversation. I knew it would be ugly, but it was time to stop pretending. When I walked through the door of our house, Emma was in the kitchen sipping her morning coffee. She looked up, surprised to see me. "Where were you last night?" she demanded, her tone accusatory. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation. "We need to talk, Emma." Her eyes narrowed. "What's going on, Jack?" "I wasn't just out with Tom last night," I said, my voice firm. "I met someone, and I spent the night with her." For a moment, Emma just stared at me, her expression a mix of shock and disbelief. Then her face contorted with anger. "You did what?" "I slept with someone else," I repeated, my voice steady. "Just like you did with Jake." "You bastard," she spat, standing up and knocking her chair over in the process. "How could you, after everything we've been through?" "How could I?" I echoed, my own anger rising. "How could you, Emma? You were the one who started this. You betrayed me first." Her eyes blazed with fury. "That was different. I was lonely and frustrated. But you did this just to hurt me. I did it because I wanted you to feel the same pain," I shot back. "I wanted you to understand what it feels like to be betrayed by the person you love." We stood there, glaring at each other, the air thick with tension. The girls were still asleep, blissfully unaware of the storm raging between their parents. "Jack, I cannot believe you would stoop so low," Emma said, her voice trembling with rage. "You are no better than I am." "Maybe not," I admitted, "but at least now you know how it feels." She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I thought we were trying to work things out. I thought we were trying to save our marriage." "Our marriage is already broken," I said, my voice cracking. "We're just fooling ourselves if we think we can fix it." Emma slumped into a chair, her anger giving way to despair. "So what now, Jack? What do we do?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. "We get a divorce, Emma. It's the only way. We can keep living like this. It's not fair to us, and it's not fair to the girls." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and resignation. "You are right. We can keep pretending. It's time to let go." We sat there in silence, the reality of our decision sinking in. Our marriage was over and there was no going back. The only thing left was to figure out how to move forward, how to protect our daughters from the fallout of our broken relationship. "We'll tell the girls together," Emma said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "They need to hear it from both of us." "Agreed," I said, feeling a sense of relief mixed with sadness. "We'll tell them, and we'll make sure they know we both love them, and will always be there for them." As I walked out of the kitchen, leaving Emma to her thoughts, I felt a strange mix of emotions. The confrontation had been painful, but it was also liberating. The truth was out, and the path ahead was clear. It was time to face the future, whatever it held, and start the process of healing and rebuilding my life. The decision to divorce was just the beginning of a long, arduous process. Emma and I agreed to separate amicably for the sake of our daughters, but the reality of untangling our lives was far more complicated than we had anticipated. The divorce process dragged on for months, each step mired in legal paperwork and emotional strain. The house, the finances, the custody arrangements, every aspect of our shared life had to be carefully divided and negotiated. Emma was determined to fight for primary custody of the girls, citing her stable job and financial independence. But I was equally determined to keep them with me, knowing how much they relied on my presence and care. During this time, I realized that I needed to rebuild my own life, starting with finding a job. The break from my career had been long, and I worried about my prospects. But I was fortunate to land a position at a local engineering firm, thanks to a friend from college who vouched for me. It was a humble start, but it was a start nonetheless. Balancing work and the ongoing divorce proceedings was exhausting. The girls sensed the tension, and I did my best to shield them from the worst of it. I made sure they stayed on track with their schoolwork and activities, maintaining as much normalcy as possible. The weekends we spent together were a sanctuary from the chaos, filled with hiking trips, movie nights, and long talks about their dreams and fears. My new job gradually became a source of strength and stability. The work was challenging, and I threw myself into it, determined to prove myself and build a career that would secure my daughter's future. Late nights at the office and early mornings with the girls became my new routine, a delicate balancing act that required every ounce of my energy and focus. As the months wore on, the custody battle intensified. Emma and I attended countless court hearings and mediation sessions, each one more draining than the last. Our lawyers argued fiercely on our behalf, but the final decision rested with the judge. I presented my case with all the evidence I could muster, emphasizing my role as the primary caregiver and the deep bond I shared with Sarah and Lily. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. I was awarded primary custody of the girls, with Emma granted regular visitation rights. It was a bittersweet victory. I knew how much it hurt Emma to lose the daily presence of our daughters, but I also knew it was the best outcome for their well-being. The day the final divorce decree was signed was both a relief and a moment of profound sadness. Emma and I exchanged weary, resigned looks across the courtroom. There were no more accusations, no more fights, just the quiet acceptance that our marriage was over. Back at home, I sat the girls down and explained the new arrangement as gently as I could. They had already sensed the changes, and I reassured them that both their mother and I loved them deeply and would always be there for them. Sarah and Lily were brave, stronger than I could have ever imagined. They hugged me tightly, and we cried together, mourning the loss of our family as we had known it. In the months that followed, we settled into our new life. I continued to work hard at my job, earning promotions and building a career that provided security and stability for my daughters. Emma remained a part of their lives, and we worked together to co-parent as best we could, putting aside our differences for the sake of our children. Looking back, I realized how far we had come. The betrayal, the anger, the pain, they were all part of our past, but they didn't define our future. I had found a way to rebuild my life, and in doing so, I had created a stable, loving environment for Sarah and Lily. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but I knew we could face them together. As I stood on the porch one evening, watching my daughters play in the yard, I felt a sense of peace. Our family might look different now, but it was still filled with love and hope. And that, more than anything, was what mattered most.